and what am I seeing as commonalities between jobs and just things like that. I think it'll be fun, and I have some other stuff I want to tie into it with for some of the our younger, like the college age students, as in like, okay, well, you're listening to this. How do you gear your career to work for what you're hearing me say now, kind of stuff. Uh-oh. Letting all the secrets out. Everything looks fine. Everything's good. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Because of course they do. Mm-hmm. I really wish I could see who was in. That would be nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think doesn't YouTube. Yeah, when I go to participants, I just see macrofab. It doesn't like I'm logged in, but it doesn't even show me as a participant. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, Twitch. There's like 15 people watching, and then like 50 people also watching. Which number's right? Yeah, don't worry about it. Hmm? Oh, you're the case you ordered? Mm, that's nasty. It's a goopy 78. Hmm. Well, it does that thing where it goes up and down until it like breaks and never goes down. It's not even going to get to 64 for another few weeks here. Hmm. The whole day. Yeah. Yeah. Night skiing rules. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's fun. Yeah. Couldn't even see old tracks kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, powder it's it's just too much fun. Oh, cuz I mean it tries to lift you up. Well, I mean, the thing is you do the end of the board does have a lift on it, so unless you're just being a psycho and like really throwing your body weight forward, y- like naturally the snow will try to lift you up. Can't hear Parker. Who is Amrad Podcast? Oh, amateur radio engineering podcast. Well, welcome. Thanks for
I bet you can hear me now.
tuning in.
I guess that got all messed up too when all the computer stuff happened last week. All right, I think we are going to start. Well, let's wait 6 more minutes.
Yeah, I figured that, Derek.
How's it going, Derek? It's been a while. Jeez, how many episodes ago was that?
Derek's been on twice.
Yeah, but
And I talked to Derek in December, I think. Something like that. Wait, I'm sorry. Wrong Derek. I'm thinking of a completely different Derek.
301? I think it's longer ago than that.
Yeah.
The current source. Yeah, you're off by 200 episodes.
103.
Episode 103. Where we talked about Dorito dust. Oh, it sounds like we need to change that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we should do that again. It was fun. That Dennis, the guy from the Mint, he has to go check with legal about what he's allowed to talk about. On,
Oh, the
which
guests
that'll
you
be
can bring
cool.
on?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple guests starting to be lined up.
I saw that. Yeah. And I've got some others in the works as well. So, yeah. Teenage engineering, that'll be cool. And then some other stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll try to do teenage engineering in like 2 weeks, I think. Because next
Okay.
week we'll be able to schedule it, and then I'm hoping to do it like the week after that. And then there's someone that wants to do it at the end of March, and that's like coming up soon. So I gotta
Yeah,
figure
that's
that
not
out.
very far away. Yeah.
I guess I got a mosquito bite right there. The red dot on my freaking forehead. And I can't believe I let we had a contact over at Arduino, and then
Yeah.
I don't know what
saw that.
happened because that
It
was
just
like
fell through the cracks.
it was like August 21.
It was
And
a
I'm
while
like,
ago. Yeah.
I'm like, oh snap, that's really old. So I reached out. They haven't responded yet, but I'm hoping we mend that and get that dude on because that would be a lot of
That'll
fun.
be cool. My send cut send stuff shipped today. I'm excited.
Ooh. what you
Also, one thing I'm excited about is send cut send allows PayPal for
Yeah.
payment, and you can do the PayPal Pay in 4 option, which
Okay.
is so for larger orders you can split it up into 4 payments, and it doesn't go on your credit report. It's just you split it up and pay over 4 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I don't have to dump a bunch of money all at once.
That's pretty nice.
Yes, sir. That is the AHP Alpha TIG 200, the older module. On that sweet welding cart that Parker bought me.
Speaking of the of TIG welding, did I talk about?
You have not talked. Well, you talked a little bit about welding your box up. But you talked mainly about how you were going to do it. I don't think you talked about. I don't remember. Did you talk about it being finished?
It's not finished. I've only tacked it all together.
I can't remember if you had mentioned that you tacked it together or that you were going to tack it together.
Yeah, let's check the podcast blog. Oh yes, I had to type in macrofab because apparently blog podcast doesn't go directly to the macrofab website. Yeah, last week was the thermal hum of the universe,
Yep.
which
We did not mention it that time.
Yeah.
It would have been 1 or 2 before that.
so it's not that one. Vaporwave reflow.
That was the whole episode. We just talked about machines. That was cool.
Yeah, that was only machines. Then okay, laser cutting tolerance.
That would have been when you talked about it.
Will need to weld it, so I did not talk about tacking it together. So let's bring that
Let's
up.
mention it. Yeah, we talked about tolerances for doing like fingers through Sencuts in.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure if any kind of authority because it's basically the only machine I've ever tigged with. Let's just put it this way: it works. I can get everything I want to weld. I haven't run into anything, but if it doesn't work, it's my fault, not that thing's fault.
That's like, yeah, because I have a Pro TIG from
Yeah,
Harbor Freight,
yeah,
and I'm like, I think it's like a 200, yeah, Pro TIG 200 or something like that, or like 190 maybe. Anyways, like,
yeah.
it's one of those like, if it's not working, it's me, not the machine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I've done like steel like perfectly fine with it, and then I tried to do aluminum, and it just like
Yeah.
I still can't. Like I've been practicing aluminum. I'll come back
It's so hard.
I'll come back to the next day, same piece of aluminum, and I can't weld can't weld it.
Yep.
I'm like
Man,
I don't know.
so I run mine on 220, and I had some fun a while back where I just cranked it. I just max amperage
Yeah.
and just saw what it was like. And I mean, you could turn steel into just a liquid pool in like no time
Yeah.
flat. It also my torch. I have a regular. I think it's a 17 torch,
Okay.
and it gets hot real fast when you put like 200 something amps
Through that little tiny area.
Yeah, through that tiny little thing. It's like, okay, I just wanted to see what it was like, because most of the time the steel that I'm doing, I'm in the anywhere between 70 and 130 amps.
Yeah,
Somewhere
I'm
in that range.
usually the steel I'm doing is like I'm at 90.
Yeah, right, and that's probably plenty.
Yeah,
right?
I use 90s actually, in my opinion, over because I was tacking the. Well, I'll talk about. Let's just talk about the podcast.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. You want to put the battery box first?
Sure. Oh, the Yes Welder. Yeah, it's supposed to be really good. Um, that's the one that Joe has, Steven.
Oh, okay,
He
cool.
has the Yes Welder. Like the multi-combo one. That's like a MIG, TIG, all that good stuff in one box.
Oh yeah, the everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing about the AHPs that they haven't changed is that the foot controller they give is the most the hottest garbage out there. It is so bad, and everyone complains about it, and it's just universal. Everyone hates it, and they still haven't changed it. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, man, you should just listen to the community. Even if you charge an extra $100 for it and just put a really nice foot controller,
Yeah.
nobody would complain about that.
Yeah,
Paying an extra $100.
I guess because I don't do a lot of TIG work, and so far most of my TIG work, my fitment's been pretty good. Is, I don't really do the variable foot control.
You just blast it.
Is, well, because if I tack it together, it's you just the pedal down. I will back off slowly.
Yeah, so you get rid of the fisheye and you don't blow holes.
So you slam it down, create your arc, and then it'll melt together, and then I back off. That's for tacking, right?
You ramp it down, yeah.
Yeah, and then for welding, I honestly just use the pulser that's built into it.
Oh yeah, because it just gives you a cadence to move your hand.
Yeah, and I just do it that way. I know that's not real TIG, but guess what? I'm not a real welder either.
Yeah, but let's put it this way: like, it's plenty fine TIG. Hell, freaking this old Tony, he's also not like a professional TIG welder, but in his like learn to TIG episodes, he's like, put it on the pulsar and just learn on that.
Yeah, he's just like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I also like, I never say I'm a welder though, because I'm like, well, I'm not certified. I think it's like
metal sticker together.
Yes, I view welder as the same thing as like engineer, right?
Yeah.
Um,
if you get paid to do it,
well, get paid to do it or certified to do it,
right?
so to speak.
If it's your profession, then you're a professional.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone pays you to do it, then you are a professional at
Then
it.
you are it.
Technically,
Right.
yeah, you are a professional no matter what it is.
Yeah.
I guess that is the difference between amateur and professional.
Mm-hmm.
Um, dude, the I would say the scariest thing with TIG though, I know it's not that very scary, but is when you be welding like TIG, right?
Yeah.
And then like you either bump something or something moves on your workbench and like pulls the piece away from you, and you get this like fucking lightning bolt coming out.
Oh, and it goes.
And you're like, oh shit!
Yeah. And the cloud goes like.
Yeah,
becomes
everything.
huge. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a hot glue gun. Yes, exactly, Derek. It's a hot glue gun. Like MIG is still my favorite because you can just lay the beads down like no other, and it is an industrial glue gun, sticking steel together.
MIG is easy mode,
They're so
and
nice.
in a very good way.
Yeah, it's such a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, not in like an elitist kind of way. It's just like easy mode is in like you want to get it done, MIG.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it's over, honestly, actually, if it's like over, like 12 gauge, I am like getting the MIG out, and I'd rather put like 023 wire in there, and try to do it with the MIG, than try and do it with the TIG, just because more comfortable and for me at least less chance of blowout. I still haven't really got the feel for TIG yet in terms of like making sure you don't like completely blow through sheet metal.
Yep. So MIG is the hot glue gun, and TIG is just a really big soldering iron.
Brazing iron.
Yeah, sure.
The thing with that, that's a good analogy, I think. The problem with that is, though, with a soldering iron, your tip is still touching.
Yeah, and yeah, with the other two, with MIG and stick, you're touching ish. Like you're actually touching the puddle with the electrode.
Yeah.
Whereas with TIG, you're floating.
I wonder once the arc starts with MIG and TIG, or MIG and stick.
Oh, there's got to be a zone.
There's a zone of no solid somewhere in there that's always there, though. Though sometimes, I guess, depending on
there is a boundary where it's vaporizing or melting, I guess you could say, right? But like I would constitute that as touching.
Okay.
Whereas with TIG, you're not touching.
Correct.
In fact, you can TIG without a filler material and zero touch a weld.
Yeah, you are right. TIG is 100% not touching. It is purely arc through an inert gas.
It is just electrons flowing through the air and beating the snot out of the metal.
Whereas, yeah, with MIG and stick, your solid is turning into a liquid with an inert gas around it.
Correct.
So you are physically still touching it.
Oh yeah. Especially stick.
Stick is I've done some stick. It's just I don't have a big use case for it, so I don't do it. But I do have some. I do have some electrodes just for like shit hits the fan and I need to stick some big chunks of metal together. Basically, bought it just to try it.
Do you ever watch A-Bomb 79?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna because I can't put it in YouTube. I'll just put it in our. I'll put it in Squadcast chat.
Okay.
This check this video out. This guy A-Bomb 79. He does a lot of machining videos and stuff. He goes and he welds with a 1,000 amp stick. It's like a baseball bat that you have to hold. He welds. You just go watch it. It's ridiculous. Yeah, and they show some pretty up close videos of him, and he's just basically standing over the weld, shoving this thing into it. Like around 7 minutes in, doing a 1,000 amp weld.
Why is that all broken for me? Oh, there it goes. Okay. There's not a welding bath. There's a welding pool.
Yeah.
It's a hot tub.
Across this place.
Holy shit!
I think it's enormous.
Very end of the plate to
it
support it.
kind of poured off the end.
Yeah,
Just a little, definitely getting into it.
Now, and they talk about it in the video. This is not a normal thing for someone to
So
hold
what's your
that stick.
process on
This
that?
is
What we're
like
gonna
they
do here
use
with your
these
acid
in
test?
like what do they call them? Like blast furnaces where they drop them in and it like automatically start the like this is a machine controlled thing.
Yeah.
But he still just holds. the
Yeah,
rod.
he's doing it by hand.
Process,
Yeah,
manually.
it's
It's meant to be done mechanized.
You know what's funny?
They-
He doesn't actually get good penetration there.
Well, they cut it later on, and he gets like half an inch of penetration.
Yeah, I know. I'm
But
looking.
which is not you would think more with that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I scrubbed through the video, and yeah, because like the weld bead is like 5 inches wide, but only half an inch
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah, right. Freaking 1,000 amps. Yeah, watch A-Bomb's stuff. He does really cool things.
Have you watched since we're on that topic, Fireball Tool?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I like his
Fireball
stuff.
Tool is cool. Oh my gosh, like when
He just builds this crazy ass shit.
he builds crazy shit, and then he'll get like end mills that's like a 2-inch diameter cutter that's like 8 inches long.
Yes.
and take full depth cuts.
Full depth
with
cuts
it.
just to see if it can handle it.
Yeah, his machines are really freaking cool. Like when he surfaced that old anvil.
Yes.
That was cool.
Yeah. I just like. I know he like advertises his.
Take it easy,
his,
Derek.
Later, Eric. I know he advertises his his stuff a lot, but I mean that's his livelihood.
Sure.
And at least his stuff that he sells is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Like I wish I could afford that Vice he sells. It's like a
Oh my-
$3,000 something Vice.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's
I wish I could
pretty
have
awesome.
that.
All of his stuff is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch? He's only been around for about a year now. Inheritance Machining.
Never heard of it.
You know what? Later tonight, I'm gonna see if I can reach out to this guy and get him on the podcast. He has a machine shop that he inherited from his grandfather after his grandfather passed away, and he tells like all these stories about how he got it in, and now he's making machines and like making a whole machine shop out of it.
You've mentioned him before, and I just have not watched any of his stuff yet.
His stuff, I'm gonna reach out to him because he just does really cool stuff, and for all of his projects, he still does all the drawings by hand.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's got
Just
he
all the
inherited
drafting?
his dad's or his grandfather's drafting table, so he goes and does it, and he goes all the way to the like he draws the title block and like his logo on every single project he does.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Man, it's been for. I'm wondering if my new place I should set up a drafting table and get back into that.
It's really fun, you know.
I used to love doing it. It's just I do it all in digital now. But my mom was an interior designer. I guess she technically still is, but
So she knows some drafting, right?
yeah. So I learned a lot from her, and then took 4 years of basically drafting in AutoCAD in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So did all the drawing by hand and that kind of stuff, and then learned AutoCAD. Yeah, so all the drafting by hand, like all the angles and using the right stenciling for some stuff. Letter blocks. Like if you look at my handwriting, it's like all block lettering, and that's why. Just because I spent like 6 years of my life just writing that way and just kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone's like learning cursive, and I'm like, I'll stick block letters together. And I actually kind of came up with my own. Well, there's probably a specific term for it, but block lettering. But each, I think we talked about this once, a long time ago. It's block lettering, but with one stroke per character, so you don't lift your pencil up.
Oh yeah.
Just
what do they
kind of
call
speed
that?
it up.
I don't remember what it's. I mean, they also do that for engraving.
Yeah.
I don't. What is that called? V slotting, basically.
Hmm.
He sells the. Okay, he sells a shirt. It's not cheap. Well, this is in Canadian dollars, but it just says "champ for everything" on the front of the shirt. Because that's like his thing. Like
Yeah.
everything he does, like when he's done with it, he's like, we got to add a chamfer because it's sexy.
Okay, yeah, I gotta watch this now.
Yeah, he's awesome. It's really cool. Champ for everything.
Did you see the image I made for laser cutting tolerance?
For the podcast,
Yeah, I don't think I sent you that one. I sent you the vaporwave one.
that one was cool.
Um, if
Yeah,
you
I'll
go to
look it up.
macfed.com/podcasts, and I use the
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
yeah Bond. It's the Goldfinger where Bond's like
Goldfinger.
where Bond is strapped to like the laser cutting table, and Bond's asks like, "Do you?" I think he says in the movie, "Do you expect me to talk?" And then, but so
No,
in
I
this, I
expect
just
you
have a
to
caption: "Do you
die."
expect me to be intolerance?" And then Goldfinger goes, "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die."
That might be my favorite Bond movie, just because it's so goofy with the big fat dude in a yellow tracksuit like half
Yeah.
the time. Like,
That movie, and what is it, Octopussy?
Octopussy. Yeah.
That one's super good too. GoldenEye is a classic though, because that's the one we kind of grew up with.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like our
I
generation's Bond.
I tell people that Pierce Brosnan is Bond
Yeah,
for me because I grew up with playing GoldenEye,
yeah.
so like
And watching those
I always saw him
movies,
that
yeah.
way. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you've seen the meme with the Nintendo 64. If you the Nintendo 64 box.
The
Yeah.
kid opening up the N64.
No, go look at that one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's an old one.
That's
That's
classic.
an
dude.
old meme.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just looking at our our last couple like episodes of like the featured image that I've made, and I'm like really like them a lot. I will say I don't know if I actually said this like publicly, but I said it to Steven and our marketing team a lot. Like my favorite part of everything I get to do is I get to spend 20 minutes on Wednesday morning coming up with like a featured image idea
Something stupid.
and
Yeah.
something stupid, and I get to do that every week, and that is my favorite thing I get to do. Then there's the podcast, of course, but like
Sure.
coming up with like the featured image, especially if I get to like make it me.
Dude, okay, so totally off topic, but we gotta play Counter-Strike 2 if it when it comes out, because it's supposed to be the end of this month or next.
Is that really a legit thing?
I'm looking at something here. The title of this article is Counter-Strike 2 is legit, coming just around the corner
So you know what's just around the corner?
next year.
April 1st.
That's true. That is true.
That is 2 weeks or so away, right? At this point,
It's like
3 weeks
less
away?
than 4, but
it is
it's the
1,
7th.
2,
So
3
1,
it's
2,
3.5 weeks away.
3.5 weeks. So
Yeah.
that is true. Could be.
You know what? Funny enough. Okay. It is technically Counter-Strike 3,
That's true. It is.
but they're counting.
Because what we're playing right now is Counter-Strike 2.
Technically, yes,
Yeah.
because it was Counter-Strike, because it was a mod, right, for Half-Life, and then around 1.6, right, was kind of when it went like stable in terms of they never really changed it.
They
Like,
you
there
mean
was-
they finally balanced the weapons.
Yeah, like it was balanced, and I mean, there was patches for years after that, but that was kind of like 1.6 was like it.
Yeah.
It was
Official
like,
release.
It was called Counter-Strike 1.6.
Yeah.
And then Source came out.
Yep.
No, this is technically Counter-Strike 4. Because, yes, Counter-Strike Source came
Oh,
out.
you're right. Counter-Strike Source. Yeah.
And that was the thing for a long, long time. And then Go came out.
Yeah, right.
And now we're on Counter-Strike 2.
That's what they're calling it.
That's stupid. I'm sorry, that's stupid. Because technically Source was Counter-Strike 2. Technically. They just called it Source for some reason. And then Go came out. And Go came out of nowhere. Like, it was just, like, they're like,
Yeah, they were like, here you go.
yeah, here's a new thing. Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's free.
Yeah, free. Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, gets new game, only plays dust.
Yeah, DE does too.
Hey, don't mess with perfection, right?
That is a really good... It's amazing how good that... It's an asymmetrical map and how good it is at that. There's not a lot of games out there that can say they can have a well-balanced asymmetrical map.
Yeah. And that map has been analyzed up and freaking down. Like,
Yeah.
the angle of boxes and things.
Yeah.
It's like,
Tweaking... Let's rotate it 0.1 degrees.
yeah.
And then,
yeah,
like,
and then the
completely
community
throws
loses their
everything-
mind.
It completely throws everything off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's start this podcast because I am getting really hungry. And I still
Oh,
got to
yeah,
cook.
sure. Well, that was the Macrofab.
If only.
Yeah.
How long have we been streaming for already? 40 minutes. Already been streaming for 40 minutes. Okay. Welcome to the Macrofab Engineering Podcast, a weekly show about all things engineering, DIY projects, manufacturing, industry news, and fixing, well, I didn't really fix it, broken computers. We're your hosts, electrical engineers, Parker Dolman.
Didn't fix your computer?
No, I didn't fix my computer.
So, yeah, as of last week, Parker's computer bit the dust, but it's hobbling along, right?
Yeah. And this is episode 369. That was Steven, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just started talking, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Stephen Craig.
You know what? That's the first time that's happened in 369 episodes, so that says something.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
What, your computer breaking?
No, you just going off on a tangent in the middle of the intro.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Always something. Keep you on your toes, right?
Exactly. So we have some news, and we actually have some expansion of news that we've been talking about for last 5 episodes or so. We have the an update for the meetup here in Houston. It is officially called May the Fab Be With You. And as you can tell, it's a Star Wars themed meetup on May 4th. Coming up, that's in 2 months now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically, 2 months from now.
So if you go to, we'll post this link in our in the show notes, but it's macrofab.com/events/may-the-fab-be-with-you.
Very explicit there.
Yeah. And so it's to kind of show off our new factory. We're going to have a contest for the best Star Wars costume. I don't know what I'm going to dress up as yet, but
That's
I'll
okay.
figure it out.
I hadn't even read the notes, and I was gonna ask. is dressing up appropriate. Not only is it appropriate, it's recommended.
Recommended. We'll have a contest for it. We're gonna have food and drink. I heard that there's a possible cantina band that we might have, which I thought was
Clarinet
like,
playing buttheads up there.
yeah. Well, it's the music of that band plays is called Jizz.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't the name of the? Oh no, I'm sorry. I think it. I was messing up the Star Wars band that plays in Jabba the Hutt's floating RV that he has.
Floating RV.
I think that band I think is called Evan Orbo and the Galactic Jizz Whalers.
Yes.
I don't remember what the band in the cantina is called though.
With Max Rebo.
Oh, did I get it wrong? Did I get those flipped?
Yeah,
again?
you got them flipped around.
Max Rebo is the Blue Elephant.
Yeah,
guy,
Blue
right?
Elephant that plays. The genre is called Jizz.
Yeah. Give me now. I gotta look it up. What is the Star Wars Cantina band? What is their name? Oh my gosh. Okay. Figrin Dan and the Modal Nodes.
Sure.
Is the name of the Star Wars Cantina band.
I love Star Wars lore so much.
Star Wars is great.
It seems
Okay, so
it seems like tangent here. It seems that Star Wars lore gets created the opposite of like let's say Warhammer 40K gets created.
how's that?
So like Star Wars lore, they like made episode 4 or like just A New Hope. It was called Star Wars A New Hope. Or actually it was just called Star Wars at the very beginning. Like
Right.
and I don't even think there was originally a plan for it to be 3 movies, but it was so successful they're like, let's make 3 movies out of this thing. Okay. And that's when like episode 5 became a thing, and everyone's like, what the hell does this mean? But whatever. Basically the lore of Star Wars works backwards. So they throw the dart and then slip a bullseye underneath it. Okay, they go back later and fill in all the holes. Okay, whereas like Warhammer 40K is like the exact opposite. Like, though the people who make up that lore just come up with crazy stuff and just put it down.
I also feel that Star Wars. It seems like a lot of the lore in Star Wars kind of fills out horizontally. In other words, it feels like the universe keeps getting bigger, whereas with 40K, the universe keeps getting deeper.
Yes.
Like they're not growing outwards. It's just like there's something really messed up about some lore that they talk about, and then someone comes up with another idea that's more messed up about that same lore. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Star Wars seems to get wider, and then whenever you start reading more and more about 40K, or new stuff comes out, it just gets deeper.
Right.
It's a weird distinction, but I think that's would be fair to put out there.
Well, I feel like they put War 40K put like boundaries in the universe in terms of like this is the width of our universe in terms of the lore, and everyone seems to be okay with playing in that playground. But in Star Wars, it seems like they're always trying to push the boundaries of what the playground is.
Oh yeah, well they have backstories for like the people who like sell ice cream in Star Wars.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, didn't the Mandalorian just
season 3, right?
Season 3 that just launched the other day, didn't it?
Yeah, I have not watched it yet. Basically for like TV shows, I just wait till it all comes out and then I just go and spend basically a weekend watching all of it.
Right, you just want to binge the whole thing.
Like
okay, so only one episode's out when we're recording this.
Yeah. For me, Netflix's... I know a lot of people are against Netflix's model of just, like, dropping everything at once. That is how I like to consume my media, though. I like to just, like... It's the same thing with video games. Like, I don't really like... It's like it's a very long video game. Like, Octopath 2 is out now. But I'm, like, honestly putting it off because, like, I don't have more than, like, maybe 30 minutes a day to play a video game. So I'd rather not just sit down for 30 minutes and play it. I'd rather like spend 4 hours in one go.
Yeah.
I just enjoy
Yeah,
stuff
I feel you on that.
I binge, I guess.
Yeah, that's how you did it before the last Star Wars episode that we did in December. You watched all of
I watched Obi-Wan,
Obi-Wan.
and I watched all of Andor.
In like
Honestly,
a
in like
weekend,
4
right?
days.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still.
It was
Still,
like
that's a
Friday
lot.
after work. We played our normal we have like a group that we play Friday video games with, and then afterwards I like watched Star Wars until like 4 in the morning. Went to bed, woke up again at like noon, and watched more Star Wars until like 4 o'clock again. And then and then like I had like 3 episodes left, and I finished that up on like Monday after work.
Awesome. I still haven't seen Obi-Wan yet. I may break down and watch it.
It's good. I know a lot of people don't like it or whatever, but I'm the weirdo that, in terms of like I think Boba Fett is like one of the best. Like Boba Fett, and then they did Mando season 2.5, and then I hated that. And then everyone's like, "That's the best part of Boba Fett." And I'm like, ah.
Nah, the best part is the first half of Boba Fett is good.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll put it this
Then
way:
it goes downhill.
Boba Fett's not without its problems, but I would say all of Star Wars has problems with it. So, except Rogue One. Rogue One's perfect.
Rogue One is really fantastic. Okay, we should probably talk about some engineering topics.
Yeah,
right?
it's like because this is not the annual Star Wars podcast, unfortunately.
We could probably easily fill another 2 or 3 episodes of just talking about Star Wars.
So easily.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem.
It's when we do the Star Wars episode, it's hard to keep it to like 3 hours because
Yeah.
we could just keep going.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened this year or last year's episode. It's like I had to just cut us off at certain points.
Yeah, we had to stop because eventually you have to sleep, right?
Nah.
Nah.
All right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk about first topic here is I put down as the state of electrical engineering jobs, and if you listen to the last episode, I started off by mentioning that I'm currently looking for a new job, and so I've been doing a bunch of searching in my area for jobs, specifically electrical engineering, and I thought it'd be fun to talk about some of the commonalities of things that I've been seeing and kind of just look at what does electrical engineering, at least in my area, look like right now, and some interesting things that I've been noticing. So I live just outside of Denver, and in my area there's a handful of major industries. So that would be medical, aviation, space, communications, and manufacturing are kind of the main ones. And communications and manufacturing are both probably, they pale in comparison to the other ones. Like if you look for tech jobs out here, it's medical, aviation, and space. You're going to see just gobs of that. Military is involved in that as well, but it's like military is within all of those. Medical, aviation, and space. So there's just a ton of that. In fact, I live just down the road from Lockheed Martin, so that gives an idea of the kind of stuff out here. But yeah, so medical, aviation, space, communications, and manufacturing. If you go type in electrical engineering in a jobs search, you're pretty much just guaranteed to see that. In fact, something that's just funny to note as a side note, if you go search for electrical engineering in this area, you kind of have to filter out Lockheed Martin because it'll be like 50% of the jobs are all Lockheed Martin.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how many jobs they have available. And if that's your thing, then what's cool is for that one company you have so many options that you could pick from. So I wanted to touch a little bit on commonalities that I've just been seeing between jobs of what is asked of an electrical engineer in 2023, or what people are searching for. And just to give a little bit of context, I graduated in 2009, so I've been out of college for 14 years. I guess in terms of career, if you think of an average career being around 35 years, I'm a little bit middle career. I guess you could say that I'm right at the beginning of middle career. I'm
You're a
past,
third way through.
third of the way through. I'm past beginner, but maybe not principal level engineer kind of thing. And so I want to do a quick tangent and put you on the spot for a second, Parker. I got a question for you here.
Yeah.
You went to University of Texas. If you were to think of one thing that you thought your degree was lacking or your education was lacking that you wish you could have had through college, what might that be?
I wish I took more robotics.
Well, okay, so
Like motion control.
Do you wish they required you have that, or do you wish you just did it yourself?
So when we went to college, because you graduated a year before me or something like that.
Yep.
That was like the '08 economic downturn, and I don't know about A&M, but at UT a lot of the extra class kind of stuff were basically canceled, and they basically just got rid of them for a while because they just didn't have the money to run those programs. And one of those was like there was a really cool antenna lab and a really cool robotics lab. I really wish I was able to take at least one of those. And the funny thing is, like, I graduated, and the year after they brought those back. So basically, for like the 5-ish years I was at UT, they just didn't have them. Yeah, I just didn't have the opportunity because they didn't offer them. So I wish I was able to take robotics more instead of having to basically self-learn that.
I think I would agree with you. With my experience at A&M, there were some classes that were just not available, and it ended up being that those were the ones I wanted. And some of them were not available because they just didn't have a professor. Some of them, they had cut deals with a professor where they would only teach every other semester that class that I want, like things of that sort. I know A&M had a deal, at least when I was there, where a professor could do one semester research and not teach. And then the other semester they had to do like a heavy teaching load. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the professors would do that. And it ended up, I get why they did that. It would attract talent and things like that, but it ended up screwing some students. If that was your off year and it was your senior year, then you couldn't take that class you wanted. I think with my experience, I wish either A&M offered or I had chosen classes that were a little bit more directed and focused at design as opposed to theory. Like,
yeah, it's just, I don't know if there's any EE degree college that offers that, though.
True, but I think that I know A&M had some classes that were like that.
Yeah, I mean, there were
a little bit more intensive.
There was one class that we did do. One of my later embedded systems classes. It's like 319L, if I recall. That one we actually did board design in. We actually laid out, did a schematic, laid the board out, and actually we had it built. Didn't work, but we built it.
A&M had very little classes where they would. One of the things you would do in the class is be presented with schematics and have to analyze it or have to do something with it. I know I took one of those classes and it was phenomenal. It was fantastic. I would take it again in a heartbeat, but there were few of those. And at the same time, there was also, A&M didn't have as many classes that were, here's a microcomputer, like program it, have it do a thing. There was plenty of classes of like, here's communication, here's digital signal processing, and everything is just theoretical. I really wish I had figured out how to wrangle my degree more towards, okay, yeah, you have to understand those things, but you also have to do them.
Mm-hmm. All right. And I'm sorry though.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No. You keep going. Sorry.
Well, and the whole point of why I even asked that question, where I'm bringing this up, is in talking about the job descriptions that I'm seeing, if you're earlier on in your career, or if you're listening and you're a college student, maybe you can, you know, listen to what these things I'm seeing now in my career, and maybe that helps you pick your classes, or maybe
Okay.
that helps you start studying towards things, or or secondarily, maybe that even says it tells you like, oh, I don't want to do this, so don't even try for it.
Mm-hmm.
I know. When I was in college, I was entirely ignorant of what was going to be asked of me 14 years, and who could know that? But at least hear what's being asked of for mid-level engineers now, and maybe you can start directing your career towards one of these things. And that's why I asked you, because I was just curious what your thoughts were on that, Parker, because you work as a professional engineer, you hire engineers, you work in design, you work in manufacturing. So what is something that you felt was lacking that could still be useful to you today if you had taken that?
Yeah, it would be robotics for sure. What I was bringing up is I was looking up. So 319K is actually Introduction to Embedded Systems at the EE College at UT. It's 445L, which is the design lab, which is where you do PCB layout basically. And Dr.
Okay.
Valvano is still teaching that.
Oh, that's cool.
And running it. So if you are going to University of Texas at Austin, I know this is like super specific because there's like maybe one person out there that listens to the podcast that might apply to. Go take Dr. Valvano's classes because like he is super passionate about electrical engineering, and just a great teacher overall. I wish I could keep taking his classes. I'll put it that way.
So I have no idea what Texas A&M's electrical department is like nowadays. I'm sure it's vastly different than when I was there. But one thing I find interesting is, as I'm going through these job descriptions and reading through these things, even the ones that say like looking for entry level engineers, I'm reading through this and I'm like, my education at A&M would not be valid for this. A&M I feel like they were really interested in cranking out field engineers than design engineers. So what I mean, like, and it's kind of funny because it's very oil and gas adjacent. Like, if you needed an engineer to drive out to the middle of nowhere to go gather data on some kind of seismic computer that's hitting the earth in the middle of nowhere, A&M would have made awesome engineers for that. Like, basically, like, it's kind of goofy, but the good old boy mentality, like the guy who gets his hands dirty on the oil rig. A&M was great at cranking out those guys, but it wasn't cranking out guys who were going to go design cell phones. And I find that to be a little bit of a disappointment, especially with the state of what I'm seeing. Because when I'm doing my job searches here, I'm just putting electrical engineering jobs, not specific type. I'm just seeing what the landscape looks like. And of course, I live in a tech city, and it's localized. These industries are specific to my area, but I'm looking through this and like, these jobs are not what A&M was preparing me for. Perhaps UT was a bit better at that, and I'm sure there's other schools that are even more, far less of the field engineer kind of side and more towards the design engineer. But just keep in mind that like the tech stuff here, your school might not be preparing you for it. So it might be worth you as a student trying to figure out, how do I guide my education towards these things if like tech design is what you're really going for.
I think, well, at least at UT, the ECE program was super flexible. Like, basically, you got to pick, like, 2 tracks you got to pick. Like, basically, like, your 4th semester, you basically had to pick 2 tracks. This is at least, I don't know if it's changed now or whatever, but, and there was, like, 20 tracks. And you had to pick 2. And so I did digital signal processing and embedded systems. And I already had like some knowledge of field work because I was a petroleum engineer actually or studying to become a petroleum engineer for my first year and a half at University of Texas. And actually, my first job was a field engineer. So,
Right. Yeah.
I
But I mean, that's the oil and gas town kind of stuff, right?
oh yeah. I mean, that was like coming out of college. Like, what is the first job you get? You get whoever says yes first is what you go do.
Yeah. Well, especially at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about. I guess I never really worried about if it was prepping me for a job or whatever, because I didn't really know what kind of industry I wanted to go into. I started a field engineer, then did design work, and then started a manufacturing company.
And yeah, okay.
So I've done
let
like
me-
all
let me
three
also-
technically, right?
Let me rewind a second and just say, school isn't everything when it comes to prep.
Oh, for sure.
It's,
Yeah.
It's just getting an electrical engineering degree or an engineering degree in whatever your discipline is a very good thing. And I'm not saying that A&M, you came out stupid in these certain ways. I'm just saying, with the kind of stuff I'm seeing in a tech town that's being asked of, even of the entry level positions, I feel like there were things that I could have studied harder or further to be prepared for a job of that magnitude.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, you were not interested in those topics when you were studying it. So you could have taken those topics, but you didn't. Because you didn't want to be that kind of engineer.
Could have, only sort of could have. So if I remember right, there was a track system at A&M as well, but it was only 5 tracks, I believe, and you had to pick one, and they were big, broad things like power, and that was more like power delivery via power lines. Communications was one. Then there was analog electronics, but none of the classes were available, so no one could even go into that. And then there was semiconductor physics, which is what I did. And I think there was one more. But you see what's kind of missing from that? Like nothing. There was no programming. There was no microcontrollers. There was not a lot of design in that. There was a lot of like field engineer stuff in that, or semiconductor physics. Which for me, I took that because I was really interested in it, and not because I wanted my career to go that way. So yes, I went.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I studied things that weren't applicable, mainly because I thought it was really cool, but a lot of these things were not available.
Gotcha.
But that was 2009. Things could be very different. Regardless. So let's just look at the commonalities of what I'm seeing. So if you type in electrical engineering, almost everything is design out here. There's a few things like there's some satellite companies that do internet and things or television and things like that, and they need engineers for doing service on whatever around town, but those are fairly rare. There's a lot of design out here, a lot of satellite design, a lot of space design, a lot of aviation design, medical devices, tons of that. So there's actually a whole bunch of hardware. So if you're into the actual circuitry, Denver is a really fantastic place to be. Tons of hardware design, and tied along with that, firmware is also asked of. So lots of programming, which that doesn't come as a surprise, but in a lot of the situations I noticed, they don't split those apart. The engineer is responsible for both. So that's something to keep in mind. There's plenty of software engineering positions out here, but for a lot of the electrical engineering jobs, they expect you to be able to spin everything from nothing all the way to code to final product. There's a ton of board design stuff. So if you really like getting dirty, if you want to go schematic to board to firmware to product, there is a ton of that out here as well. Now, the other thing, and I'll pause on this one for a second. There's a ton of the jobs require, above and beyond all of that you have CAD, CAM, and mechanical experience as well. And this is going all the way to entry-level position stuff. So I feel like when I first left college, this was perhaps a little bit less asked of, but I think it's a little bit more prolific now that
You're more
jobs or
electrical
employers.
engineer is more multidiscipline.
Multidiscipline. In fact, well, okay, so CAD and CAM, almost every place I see is saying that you need to be able to create drawings, you need to be able to handle mechanical in addition to all the electrical stuff. Now, I think if there's a job that is specifically mechanical design, they're not going to ask for electricals. However, I did see one, what is it? Sorry, one example of that where the position was 100% mechanical. There wasn't a lick of electrical in it. And at the bottom, they say, looking for mechanical or electrical engineers to do this job. And that one, I believe they were actually, if I remember right, you were designing the tips to warheads, like the actual like conical tips to them. Yeah, and they were totally fine with electrical engineers. And so I think that the part that I want to pause on with that, it has been my experience that electrical engineers are regularly asked to do things that have nothing to do with electrical engineering and nothing to do with what you think electrical engineering is. And frankly, I think a bit of this is the fact that software has become so prolific and really easy to utilize that you don't necessarily need specific engineers to do specific roles anymore. You can get this more generic kind of engineer to do whatever. So that is a really big point that I want to point out. Like if you're studying electrical engineering or you're early on in your electrical engineering career, perhaps consider, hey, there's a very high likelihood I'm going to be asked to do mechanical stuff. So, brush up on doing your drawings and brush up on being able to read someone else's drawings and do the mechanical.
I would recommend, this is building off that, I would recommend taking like statics, because that's physics for things that don't move, but then they might move.
Yeah, I like that.
Statics is a good
pre-dynamics.
Yeah, pre-dynamics. Because in that class you end up basically looking at a lot of state diagrams, which are mechanical diagrams, basically. And so you get to learn that kind of stuff, and you will become a better, basically, designer of mechanical stuff. You won't be as good as a mechanical engineer, but that's a good way to learn. Start doing your own designs for mechanical enclosures for like your projects. Like do that in AutoCAD, because Fusion comes with Eagle, or does Fusion come with Eagle, or does Eagle come with Fusion? Either or, right? It doesn't matter.
Which comes first, the Fusion or the
first?
Eagle?
And I bet you your university probably has a program with Autodesk, so you can get a big discount. Or I think it's actually still free for students. Don't quote me on that one, though. But yeah, that's a good way to learn the mechanical side, is just do your enclosures, right? And just draw stuff in Autodesk, or in Fusion. Just do it. Even if you might not even build it, just start learning that software.
Yeah, I have yet to find a job that doesn't seem to mention that you're going to be doing mechanical stuff in addition to electrical stuff. So it is very normal for an employer to ask that. So I think that's just the norm going forward. And in fact, I've seen that so much with electrical engineers where you might be working on 100% mechanical projects. In fact, the very first project that was entirely mine out of college, the only one aspect of it was electrical. I was trying to make an insulator. So I had to make a fully mechanical product that insulated another thing from electrical interference. And so they gave that project to me so I could, mechanically make the whole thing, but also I had the chops to be able to test it to make sure that it was functioning electrically.
Yeah.
But very first project was that. So
yeah, that's really funny. My first actual electrical engineering project, that was a design, was my second job, and I was an embedded systems designer, to like doing like firmware and stuff. And I was working for Dynamic Perception with Chris Church, who's also the other co-founder of Macrofab. And he's like, build me a motor controller without firmware or a microcontroller. And I'm like, nah! Made a little op amp oscillator to do my little square wave. So
they work.
Yeah, it worked. So that was also the thing is, I think at this point, you have to learn code. And that's just,
absolutely.
you have to. I would say learn like C for embedded system. Because if you learn C, you can basically program any microcontroller out there. Do that. You don't have to be good at it. You just have to do it. And then Python is what I would highly recommend for a high-level language for scripting. Like being able to do... and like you will have classes that will probably deal with MATLAB.
Mm-hmm.
You will only do MATLAB in college. Like the moment you leave university land, it's not going to be MATLAB. It's going to be Python.
C and Python are way more important than those. I think I have. I'll temper that, Parker, by saying I think I've seen one job that mentioned MATLAB, but my guess is that it's not like your day-to-day would be using MATLAB.
Yeah.
That might be a rarity or something. And in fact, I could see MATLAB being something where you utilize that to produce plots to put on a presentation to show to somebody, right? Something of that sort. But yes, and actually, I would say at an absolute bare minimum, be able to read code. Even if you're not able to produce it perfectly, be able to pull up someone else's code and see what it's doing. That is an absolute must.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. Be able to code in both C and Python is pretty much a must. I don't in these jobs I'm seeing, I haven't seen much Python at all. I've seen lots of C.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were talking about firmware, and that's going to be
right.
C land, and you can even go even further and with Python and do circuit Python or micro Python on a microcontroller. I'm still starting to dabble in that on like the Raspberry Pi, the RP 2040. Highly would recommend. That's what I see all the time.
So one other thing I put down in the commonalities list was regulations. And it's not that there's common regulations. It's just that so many jobs, specifically in these industries, have regulations that they want you to be aware of or have experience in. And that can range anywhere from ISO, which is, not necessarily specific to an industry, all the way to like, here's this random multi-letter, multi-number thing that references how you need to design a medical device,
Yeah.
So, that's just a commonality I'm seeing. There's almost everything out here requires regulations. So that's not something you're going to pick up in school. That's something that you would get on the job.
Yeah. I would say if it's an introductory job, like it's a true to honest, like, fresh engineer job, and it has regulations in it, probably don't require you to be certified in those. But you should Google them and read up what those are, because they will ask you that in the interview, and then you can at least answer what that is. And be like, I've never done that before, but at least I know what it is.
Well, okay, so what Parker's saying right there, that's like super secret weapon for interviewing right there is researching that. If they don't ask you about those regulations in the interview, ask them about that.
Yeah. Totally.
And they'll love that. They'll love
ask them like
doing that.
I like go through go through the application. If you have stuff that's missing from the interview, just like go over and be like, hey, what's this thing that was on the not the application, the job posting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, if you pull up a job posting and you don't understand something that's on that job posting, it's up to you to research what that thing is, and you probably should. It's because there's a likelihood you'll be asked about it. There's a reason it's on the job posting, right?
Yeah.
So go and do that. Okay, so the next kind of category I put is most of the jobs have something to do with this, and there's a few items I have on here. The first one is, this is totally a Denver thing, but there's so many jobs out here that require that you get secret clearance, and so there's some jobs that frankly I don't know what all the hierarchies of clearance. Well, that's top secret. And so secret clearance is one, and then top secret is one above that, or not one, but it's some level above that. I don't know the hierarchy of them, but almost all the jobs out here, like at Lockheed and stuff like that, require you to get secret clearance. And what I've been explained to in the past, most of the time, that's really, really boring. It's not like some big thing that you have to take classes on or anything. They just make sure everything's clean with your past and everything. And most of the time, the stuff you learn is like, oh, this is the radio frequency for our product, and that's the clearance you need to know the number that is the radio frequency. So, but regardless, a lot of jobs out here require that, and for whatever reason, if you're not able to get that, you flat out can't do the job. The other thing, well, these other two, I've seen in a large portion of jobs, but not all of them. There's repair and then manufacturing processes. So repair being, a lot of these jobs are saying board level repair. You need to get dirty. You need to get into it. You need to get a microscope and make the thing work. A lot of these jobs, above and beyond doing all the design stuff, you're doing RMAs and you're fixing stuff.
That's one thing you will not learn in college. At all. I've never seen a soldering 101 in college before. If someone out there has that in their EE program, let me know. I'd love to know what college has that as a class you can take as an electrical engineer, because that's more of a technician, right? That's a technician college, or a technical college kind of setup. And that was stuff that I just picked up myself. The same thing with Steven.
Yep.
We just kind of picked it up and built our own boards. So.
But you know what? Yeah, sure, we picked it up. We picked it up because we kind of had to. But I mean, I'm seeing lots of jobs that are saying you have to have that. So yeah, I don't know. The nice thing about repair is, at this point, I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, but that's something I feel like I have under the belt. Like if someone puts a board in front of me and is like, "Can you repair this?" There's a high likelihood I can. I've just done it enough,
I mean, before Macrofab, you ran a repair business for audio stuff or audio equipment,
right? And repair's one of the fun ones, because repair encompasses so well. But no, I'm saying this because one of the things that's cool about repair is they put this thing in front of you and they say it needs to work. There's so many things you have to do in order to get it to work. And all the way down to, you have to go and get the documentation. You have to decode the documentation. You have to
understand it.
You have to understand, this is the way it should work. This is the way the thing they've given me is working. You have to decode how to get the non-working thing to the working state. There's a lot of skills involved in repair. And then on top of that, once you've figured everything out and you actually fix it, you have to fix it in a good way that will last.
That will last the life of the product.
Right. It's not the easiest thing. It's funny because we relegate repair to a technician job. It's high-skilled technician,
high-skilled. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I think repair work is at least the initial, figuring out what's wrong and getting I would say the first, let's say you have a batch of boards, right? And they all exhibit the same problem, is figuring out that repair process. That's a highly skilled engineer's job right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Like at Macrofab, we have engineers do that. And then once that is figured out, that engineer basically builds instructions to do that repair work.
Right.
And then sends that to a technician, because the technicians they solder every single day and do the, component swapping. They are much better at it than an engineer could ever be at actually soldering, right?
Right.
Like,
The physical execution.
yeah,
of the
physical
work.
execution. Like Steve and I used to do all the repair work and a lot of soldering at Macrofab, and we finally got to the point where we were not the best people at that anymore, which was awesome.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
So then, yeah, the other item in that list was manufacturing practices. A lot of places, sure, you got to build the board, but you also have to be the guy who communicates and gets the board made. So the manufacturing processes and practices that go into that, both electrical and mechanical. So you got to be able to basically do both fields.
Yeah, at the same time.
At the same time. So then this last little section is some of the more specified knowledge that I'm seeing a lot of in these in the tech jobs that are out here. First of all, there's high-speed electronics. So there's a lot of places that are asking that you be able to do really high-speed PCB design and things like that.
Like impedance matching and that kind of stuff. If you're
Yeah,
fresh out of college and you're like, and they go high-speed electronic design, and you say, oh, you mean like impedance matching? You probably will get the job.
Yeah, true. There's a lot of RF stuff out here. So RF is voodoo in my opinion, because it's one of those things where you learn it. There's places to learn it, but like once you kind of get in that pocket, you sort of become a specialist in a way. Like at a job, this is our RF person, you know, that knows that specifically. RF isn't something that you just kind of. I feel like you don't stumble upon RF. You kind of like know you go that way and you focus on it, just because it is that specialized. But there is a decent amount of that. And then here's one chunk of knowledge that frankly I'm going to study up on for these jobs. I've seen so many job requirements call out communication protocols, a variety of communication protocols. So mostly a lot of board level stuff. So, they'll call out, be familiar with SPI and I2C and stuff like that. But almost every single one is like, make sure you know Ethernet protocol and being able to implement that. So
the physical layer or the board layer.
Yeah. And just a variety, have experience with these protocols is usually what they say, something of that sort. So that's kind of like a broad overview of what I've been seeing, but I thought it was interesting to kind of chat about overall, like if you just look for an electrical engineering job, what in general are you going to see? And I'm just is what I'm seeing across the board. There's a variety of other jobs that I've seen sprinkled in, like the one that was talking, it was labeled as electrical engineering, but you're designing mechanical warheads and things like that's an oddball. That's one that doesn't fit in there. And then there were some that were pretty specific. A handful in there are talking about like PLC programming and things of that sort. But frankly, it's interesting if you compare Houston and here. Houston, it has 10 trillion PLC programming jobs because there's so much oil field automation out there and things. There's a lot less of that up here.
Location
that
matters.
is the state of electrical engineering jobs.
Location matters a lot on those.
It does, yeah. There's so little oil and gas up here. It does exist, but in terms of the jobs, you just don't see it.
Well, Stephen, do you have any like tentacles out there of like jobs that you're applying toward? Or are you going to kind of keep that close to your chest until?
Well, so keep it close to the chest, sure. Just in general, as people normally do. But I'm at a point in my career where I'm super open to doing new things or different things than I've done before. So right now I'm casting a really wide net just to see what's out there. I mean, that's why I mentioned last week if anyone had any suggestions to email me. In fact, if anyone has any more suggestions, I'm in the process of talking with people right now. Send me an email, Stephen, that's Stephen, stephen.l.kraig@gmail.com, stephen.l.craig@gmail.com. If you know of any jobs or anything, hit me up. We'll I'm juggling a lot of options right now. I have a list of places that I'm applying to, and it's fairly long, just because I'm just
See what's
casting a
out
wide
there.
net and having fun with it.
Yeah.
There is one thing though to note. I'm not particularly interested in relocating right now. So if you know of a job that's in a different location, if it's remote, I'll entertain that idea. I don't really feel like moving right now. I don't want to. Moving sounds terrible at this time. So yeah, that was the state of electrical engineering
In Denver.
In Denver, right.
So follow up from last. Oh, Steven, I hope the job search goes really well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah. So follow up from last week. We didn't do a video stream. So what happened if you missed last week's episode that got released? My computer decided to just completely die. It wouldn't boot or anything like that. Basically, you couldn't see any of the drives on the computer. So you couldn't see the Blu-ray player, you couldn't see the hard drives, anything that way. So we recorded it on my laptop. That went fine. But basically what happened, what I could figure out is the SATA bus. Is it SATA or SATA?
I've always called it SATA.
SATA? The SATA, because it actually stands for something. It's like serial ATA. And ATA stands for something.
I'm looking up how to pronounce it. Let's see here. ATA, SATA. I think that's how
SATA.
People pronounce this.
So yeah, that whole controller on my motherboard just bit the dust. And then honestly, like a couple hours after the podcast, I decided to mess with the computer again, and the bus came back up, and we are recording this podcast on that computer.
On the SATA bus, right?
On that SATA bus, and like the computer is like half puked out all over the floor because once it started working, I didn't touch it. I didn't put it back together. So it's like half disassembled on my floor here. It's working now. I'm not expecting it to work for long. Like, it's clearly something is wrong with this computer. So I'm going to build a new computer. Don't know exactly what I'm going to build yet. But I did order a case. I ordered a Sliger CX42. Is that 42? Yeah, 4200i, which is a 4U rack mount enclosure. So it's like a server computer.
It looks beefy.
Yeah, this company has got really good reviews. They're made in America, all that good stuff. And I'm just going to build a new computer rack for it too. And I'm going to TIG weld it. So I'm going to get like some 1-inch box tubing and make a rack out of it. Because my current one is like the old plywood one I built when we started Macrofab. So honestly, it works fine. I just want to build a new one. Because I kind of want to build one where... Because the problem with the rack mount is, like, you have to pull the computer out of the rack to work on it, which kind of silly. Like, wanting to just go to...
Well, they put them on drawers, don't they?
Yeah, but the drawer ones, the racks are mounted to, like, the floor, so they can't tip over when you pull it out.
Right.
Well,
Right.
This is a little shorty rack. You know, it's only, like, 3 feet tall. So you pull it out, and the whole thing tips over. So what I was going to do is... make a little portable rack that the lid can pop off. So I can just unscrew the lid, and then I have access to the top of the computer. And now everyone's probably like, why don't you just get like a normal desktop? Because reasons.
Why aren't you just normal, Parker?
Yeah, reasons.
Because reasons.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like rack mount 19-inch server stuff, so...
I did a rack mount computer right after college and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I think it's easier to work in and build the computer
Yeah,
as
well,
opposed to stand-up cases.
that's true. I do think it's easier to build.
Yeah.
It's easier to modify too, once you get
Yep.
it out of the rack. But that's what I was going to solve. Basically, I'm just going to make the lid of the rack can unscrew, and then I can just slide the top panel off the rack, and boom, done. I can just get access to it. So I'll let everyone know when I get that case in and start building the computer. I'm sure people will have lots of opinions on what to build hardware-wise. So that was
Cool.
the MacFab Engineering Podcast. Man, I am starving. I am hungry. I'm gonna cook. Well, you
Go
got
eat.
something?
No, go eat.
Oh,
We were your host, Stephen Craig.
and Parker Dolman.
Take it easy.
Thank you, yes, you, our listener, for downloading our podcast. If you have a cool idea, project, or topic, let Steven and I know. Tweet us at MacFab, at Longhorn Engineer, or at AnalogENG, or email us at podcast@macfab.com. Also, check out our Slack channel. You can find it at macfab.com/Slack. I'm super hungry. I gotta go to the grocery store and get eggs. My recipe calls for eggs. I don't have eggs. Eggs. I'm making
What are you
like fried
making?
rice.
Fried rice rules.
Yeah. So I'm gonna run to the grocery store. I think I'm gonna take my box truck
Just because.
just because. It's actually in the driveway, so I can take it. Well, I haven't driven the wagon in a couple days too, so maybe I should drive the wagon. Now let's drive the wagon. Oh, man. That looks like I already got your audio.
Yeah, quick.
Yeah.
All right, let's go eat.
All right. Later, everyone out in YouTube land.